Okay. Be ready, so we'll start. Yeah? Just below the middle of the page on Peitas, and the line starts with the words Toiv Loi. Toiv Loi, this is already Midas, and it is a derivative of the way this is in Moichin, where Moichin is not Toiv Loi, but in Moichin there is the hergish of Toiv. And that becomes ultimately translated in Toiv Loi in Midas. So that explains further in detail. Ki b'Moichin be'etzem, because in Moichin as such, be'eshehu torod u'misasek b'Hasagah zo'yinyan, while he is preoccupied and he's engaged in Hasagah AYIN, in reaching into the inyan. Hasagah means reaching to it, getting it. The inyan is really higher than Hasagah in essence. And in order to be masig, in order to reach it, one has to dive into it, and then translate it in what he is observing, what he is experiencing in seichel, that's Hasagah AYIN. Because initially it comes in Chochmah, and Chochmah is not Hasagah. So while he is preoccupied by Hasagah AYIN, he is totally not related. There is not room in his mind at that moment to sense the quality and the preciousness of the inyan, because he is completely preoccupied in just getting to see it. But then when he enters and he connects in the depth of the inyan, to an excess, means that he, at this moment, he knows of nothing else but this inyan. He enters into it, and this becomes his reality. This becomes his entire environment. Ubifrat, and particularly, Kasher ha'Hasagah hi be'etzem ha'inyan ha'olekis. Particularly when the Hasagah consists in reaching in to the inyan oleki, in the essence of the inyan oleki. The essence of the inyan oleki means the inyan oleki as it is unto itself, not the inyan oleki as it pertains to him. To understand the Eliki element per se. What is Elikus? At this point, then Mo Memele, then comes automatically Bechinas HaYoker v'Hayilu de Elikus. The Yoker, the preciousness, and Ilu and supremacy of Elikus surfaces automatically.
What is yoker?
Preciousness.
And the other adjective was
Supremacy.
yes.
Oh, what?
Thanks. Supremacy.
Supremacy, yeah.
Is it a proper point to ask how to contrast that with what occurred with Chochmah just before this?
Chochmah is above Hasagah. Thus, Chochmah actually sees only the etzem inyan. Doesn't see any consequences, so to speak. He is totally uninvolved. He personally is totally uninvolved in identifying with that which he is observing in Chochmah. As a matter of fact, the way to observe Chochmah is through bitul. Let me elaborate on this a bit. We don't even imagine what that consists in. Not to say that we never experienced it.
Sorry, we're elaborating on what a little bit.
How this is in contrast to Chochmah. Hasagah in contrast to Chochmah. Why in Chochmah you don't see the yoker, the preciousness and the supremacy of things? And what do you see in Chochmah? So here is a very important principle. It is even more subtle than anything else. The important thing of Chochmah, and that's Seichel in general, is that Seichel brings you and connects you to the thing itself that you're trying to understand. It is not translated in your imagination how you see it. You're not connecting to the inyan. You're taking it into yourself and you imagine that this is how it is, and you get all excited from your own imagination, so to speak. This is not what Chochmah is. Chochmah literally looks at the reality itself, and he gets drawn into it. This is why you need bitul, because if you are a mitzias, then you are separate from the reality. You're into your own self. You have it. You have a very phenomenal idea, but the idea is created from your own imagination. Let us try and take a very simple emotional illustration of this. You see a table. And you project what it would be like to sit at the table. What kind of experience would that be? Compare that with sitting at the table.
Imagining sitting versus sitting.
But you're sitting.
Well,
which is Chochmah, which is Hasagah.
Yeah, which
sitting is Chochmah. Now with being there.
But Hasagah is imagining.
Well, no, Hasagah is not imagining. I'm saying one may think that Chochmah is an imaginary process.
But it's not. It's actually being there.
That's right. It's actually.
But still, it's lacking something in contrast to Hasagah.
Oh, what's lacking? You're actually there, and in order to be there, you have to be bitul. You cannot be there if you're in your own world. That's why Chochmah requires the inyan bitul. You are connected to the inyan rather than how you translate the inyan. Let's take the similar thing in something which allows it more elaboration. You are the Hasagah. You're waiting. You're sitting there and you're imagining that you're at a wedding. Is that a participation?
You're at an actual wedding, but you're imagining.
You imagine you're there?
Yeah.
How could that be?
It could be that you don't get involved. You're in your own world. You like the food. You like the music. You're experiencing everything in your own world.
Wait a second. You imagining you were at the same wedding?
Right. Let me explain to you. You're at a wedding. What's a wedding? A wedding is a simcha chosam v'kala. But you don't care about the chosam v'kala. You care about the experience of being at the simcha. So you're not really there. You're there, the food, and say, this is what they serve at the wedding. This is how they prepare. This is how they dance at the wedding. You're not really a participant. In order to be a participant, you have to become part of it. You have to care for the fact that this is a chosam kala.
So that's Chochmah or Hasagah?
That's Chochmah. Hasagah is when you elaborate what is so significant about the chosam wedding. This is a binyad diyad and so forth. But that's a meaning that you are there. This is their simcha. You don't know what it means. It's their simcha. But you're there.
So what would be Hasagah in this case?
Hasagah would be in case you delve into it, understand what is the effect of that simcha. How does that affect their
To
lives?
remain on this call, press 1.
You delve into it, sort of widen that reality of being there.
Excuse me?
The Chochmah is being there. So this state of Hasagah is kind of widening that effect, going further with it.
Hasagah is not widening. Hasagah is understanding what's behind it, what the significance of it.
That's not already what Chochmah does?
No. Chochmah is being there itself. It's beyond your understanding. Hasagah is when you bring it into your own seichel. This couple is getting married, and they anticipate the mitzvah to have children and grandchildren, great-grandchildren. They're fulfilling the mitzvah. Whatever comes to your mind in understanding the significance of this simcha. Just to be there contains all of these explanations. Because the simcha is so overwhelming and clearly stating its reality. But you have to be there. To be there, you have to forget about yourself. So that's what I'm saying. It's important to understand Chochmah is being in the reality itself. And this is why it requires the infinite bitul. You become part of what you see. So we said a witness has to be one who has observed the actual transaction. A witness. What's the difference between somebody who observed the actual occurrence, or the story with Shimon Meshetach, where he chased after this man who was chasing somebody with a knife? He came into the cave, and he sees never the victim lying in a pool of blood, and the guy's knife is full of blood. Did he see the act or he didn't see the act?
Didn't see it.
Just as one saw it. He saw the whole consequence of the act, but the act itself he didn't see. Therefore, he is not a witness. This is Chochmah. That's the answer to your question. Chochmah does not have any ramifications of good and bad, great and small, just reality itself. Then he comes in Hasagah. In Hasagah, he begins to understand what it is that he is observing, so to speak, in Chochmah. Brings it down in Hasagah to understand what it is, and then he understands the significance of it, and from that comes the realization of the yoiker and the preciousness and the greatness of it. This is one of the qualities of what he's observing. Okay? Alright, we have the place, and now we are a few lines below the middle of the page. There are 5 lines. The line begins with Kumoi. That when he goes into the Inyan, in the Hasagah, then comes automatically the sense of the Ilui, of the Yoiker and the Ilui, of the preciousness and the supremacy of the supremacy of this Inyan. Why? Because he is into it. Being that he is into it, and he delves into it, Hasagah is not Chochmah. Chochmah becomes one with it. Doesn't even know what he sees. A Hasagah, he brings it to himself. Therefore, the impression and what kind of great thing this is part of this observation.
It's pretty strange process. The Chochmah is he doesn't even know what he sees, but somehow it's still his. There's still what to look at.
Okay, right. All right, good question. What's the answer? The answer is that he has the truth of his own truth, which is superior to Chochmah, which is Rotzen and Noineg and the Etzem HaNefesh,
which puts it in which does what? Puts it in context.
No context. He said there is still something to look at. Because he, in essence, relates to that which he sees.
Again, in essence, he relates to what he sees.
Yeah.
Although a moment ago we said it's not known.
It's not known. But
yet,
in essence, his whole mitzvah is identified. Where does Chochmah get its insight? From the Nefesh, from the Rotzen. Chochmah doesn't create it. Chochmah is the highest koyach, where this Rotzen and the Oineg HaNefesh expresses itself. It means galus. But it's all basically a derivative, based on and the effect of the fact that it's a living person. You can't have Chochmah if you're not a living person. Where does life come into this whole process?
And because you're a living person, there's enough there's enough for you to
You
delve into.
relate to the life of it.
Yeah.
Not to the Chochmah, to the life of it. This is how you connect in the first place. All right. Then, when he is in the process of Hasagah, where he delves into the union in depth, he forms a personal connection to thee, and he wants to get to the core of it. Then automatically surfaces, and he's touched by the Yoker or Nilhud, by the preciousness and the supremacy of Elokus. This is Seichel, this is the Hasagah of Seichel, this is not Chochmah. Ukamoi, as for example, what occurs? Listakolo bikoro de malko. To look into, stare, listakolo, to stare, bikoro de malko, in the preciousness of the king. It's one thing to see the king. Nistakola b'yikora de malko means to delve into and to, I said, to stare at the yikora de malko. When it's nistakola b'yikora de malko, then the preciousness is automatically surfacing. Again, I need to put it a little bit in a kind of a means where we should understand these words. Malko is a king. We have never experienced being in front of a king, but we've experienced being in front of the REBBE. But let's put it in perspective. A king, being in the presence of the king, is automatically awe-inspiring. Why is it automatically awe-inspiring? Because there's no way you can comprehend or even project the spirit that flows through this to the king. I once saw a film, and the figures in the film was a king. The way they projected the king was sitting in his seat in a huge room, like in a salon, that could seat hundreds of people. And he's sitting there in the middle, doesn't feel uncomfortable, like he's nowhere, doesn't feel uncomfortable at all. And he can communicate with you across the room. No sweat, so to speak. Doesn't feel like he's talking to you at a distance. He would not make an effort for you to hear him because you're at a distance. He doesn't even consider it. He is totally at home in this huge open environment. Yes, on the side there are all kinds of different sermons on the side, But he is totally oblivious to that. For us to observe such a phenomenon, we would feel uncomfortable to speak to somebody across the room. Do you really hear me? Are we communicating? Are we together? He doesn't have that question at all. Of course you be together. He's perfectly at home in this completely open environment. Normally the people want to discuss something personal, they would sit down at close proximity. Not him. He doesn't need that. So when you're in an environment like this, and you begin to focus in and contemplate what kind of personality flows in this man. What's his mindset? Just a remote example, to focus in and to glaze at the at the preciousness of the king, the supremacy of the king.
This is describing Hasagah, yeah?
This is describing, yes. This is describing Hasagah, because in Hasagah there is already the union. When he's miskashed, there's a sense of what he comprehends. When he's trying to get to the union itself, there is nothing, no yeker, no greatness, no beauty, nothing. Just to understand what kind of personality this human being is in our motion.
But Menachem Av goes on Chochmah.
This is initially it's in Chochmah, and then he tries to bring the Chochmah down in Hasagah.
And that's where there is the so-called personal sense of supremacy, preciousness.
He does not have any definitions as to how great it is. He's just understanding the inyan itself. He's observing. There's initially observing there's a chochmah, and then he understands what he's observing. He's reflecting on that which he's observing. Then there is where he steps in further deeper into it, and he wants to actually comprehend it. He delves into seeing what kind of supremacy this is, what kind of quality this is. And he starts calling the mark. Then surfaces the yoiker, the preciousness, and the supremacy of the union. Omnam, however, okay, this is so far what the most we can do. Omnam, however, ein ze b'murgosh. Nonetheless, this is not b'murgosh. He does not really feel it as such. It surfaces, and he gets certain flashes of ideas, but he's not b'murgosh, because he's not really up to it. And it is not really an independent aspect from the Hasagah. With Masik, the inyan, from the inyan itself surfaces, is sensed this preciousness that is inherent in there. Rak, so it's not a separate thing from the Hasagah. Rak except Sheba Hasagah zo inyan that when one comprehends the Inyan, v'davko, and that itself also, only exclusively, shenichnas be'ema go'inyan be'yesed, when he steps into the depth of the Inyan to an excess, he really wants to get deeply involved and get to the depth of it, then meir b'moichai shines in his mind, in his brain, the preciousness and the supremacy of Elokus. In other words, this is the oil of what is masik. This cannot be, he cannot comprehend it. But meir b'moichai, there's a shine, there's an illumination in his mind of this prescience, real Elokus. Shenafshay, and this meir, what is that, the effect of it? Shenafshay, that his soul is that bekes bozeh, connects to it, cleaves to that b'bchinas dveikus atzmi, in a manner of dveikus atzmi, of a connection that permeates his whole being. Where the dveikus, the connection, is not a connection that can be identified as a connection between two things, but he becomes one with this. So let me just put in a couple of words in this. When he is trying to understand the yoiker and the greatness of the king, this is an important phenomenon which is very easy for us to miss. He is trying to understand the yoiker and the yoiker of the king. What's behind this trial? What is behind this effort? If behind this effort is that he should know what kind of experience that is, then he has nothing, no chance to this. There's no connection to it. Behind this effort is that he wants to literally connect to the king. He wants to be completely subservient, completely one with him, with the king. Not the experience of knowing him, but to be with him,
So wait, this trying to understand is not trying to understand, it's not trying to project or know anything about the king so-called objectively, but rather understand here means how to be subservient and know the king's desire.
You can put it this way. There's even a deeper opinion that he should be totally dedicated to him.
Right. The point here, a person may tend, by understanding in the world, the person deconstructs things, how does this work, what's behind it. We're pushing all of that aside.
Aside completely.
And saying, understanding here means
to be with him, to be one with him. This is when he senses, this is why there's the oil. The oil of the king embraces him. And that's when he feels the preciousness of it. And he becomes connected to the king with his dveikus atzmi, total and a thorough connection, as a total one. Okay, this is what more we can.
Lastly, I mean, this to understand was the word used there was Hasagah, right? So why not rather to serve or to something else? Why the word understanding? It seems rather Indian of to serve him or to bitul in front of him, or miyached imoy, or something else.
Hasagah is the first step towards that. If you really want to connect something, you want to first know him. There are different levels of serving. There's a Nevet Knani, who remains a separate entity. He just does what he's told. Then there is a higher Madrega where he's a Nevet. He's actually connecting. He has the first step towards that is Hasagah.
Okay, so this Hasagah is on the way to service.
To become one with him. Yes. All right.
Disconnected.
In the case of Chochmah, we used the situation with the cave in the murder case. That was like
Observing something.
being there, right? But in the Menachem with Chochmah per se, there is no
No.
situation.
No.
Oh, just to bring out the being there,
That's right.
not to say anything more.
No. Because he was there, but you didn't see the act, so it lacks the reality of mind.